Yeah, so one of the things I deal with is why is it that we have such a negative view of fathers? In the media, fathers are regularly mocked and ridiculed, the butt of the joke. The Homer Simpson model. The father's always the dimwit dad. My one of my sons really loved the Berenstain Bears, and I don't know if you've read those, but the father's always the doofus. He's even the kids laugh at him and make fun of him, and so I think that's another thing we need to address is, men are not going to be motivated to become fathers if fatherhood itself is not respected, if it's not given accorded dignity and value. And so I ask why that happened. And again, we have to go back to the Industrial Revolution because when fathers were taken out of the home, for the first time, they were no longer there as fathers. For the first time, boys were growing up without close relationships and supervision by their fathers. Yeah, we're so used to it now that we don't realize. Again, you have to go back to the 19th century and read the literature. They were shocked. They were shocked that fathers were no longer there. The leading psychologist of the 19th century said, our boys are growing up half orphaned, because their fathers are not there day in and day out. Or you find other people, Parents magazine back then said, the greatest source of domestic sorrow these days is that fathers can't be home with their kids anymore. And we talked about the temperance movement. The founder of the temperance movement said, the father is meant to be like the prototype of God in the family, and yet he's not there from Sunday to Sunday. So at the time, it was a great shock that men were no longer closely connected to their sons. And so I do have a whole chapter in the book giving practical, you have to give some practical solutions as well. And so I talk about ways in which men have worked to flex the workplace a bit, be home more. And the pandemic was actually a game changer because a lot of fathers discovered they actually liked being closer to their kids. Harvard University actually did a study in which the conclusion was 68% of fathers said during the pandemic, I got closer to my children and I don't want to lose that. I want to have some kind of a maybe hybrid setup at work, some kind of an arrangement. And even leaving, work a few days early. I had a graduate student, a man who just left work a few days early to coach his son's soccer and basketball teams. His boss accused him of coasting, but he said it did not harm his career. And when his children grew up, they said, we want to be a dad like you, which is a lot better than any workplace accolades. So I do look at some ways in which fathers can maybe make room, even in our industrial age. And I quote CEOs too, who say it works. You got to persuade business and corporations as well that this is going to work. I quote one CEO who said, before the pandemic, of course, we were afraid to try remote work because we thought we would lose productivity. They would slough off. They wouldn't work. He said, and this is a direct quote, he said, the pandemic has completely exploded that fear. We did not see any drop in productivity. In fact, if anything, when they don't have to spend time getting dressed and sitting in traffic, we get more work out of them when they're working from home and not being interrupted by constant meetings and so on. And so I think that take the book into your boss and show, hey, look, this actually, even the CEOs are saying, yes, this does work. That, as one CEO put it, if you give parents time to be good parents, like not staying late, not working till midnight, not coming in on the weekends, but prioritizing their family. If you give them time to be better parents, they are, in fact, better workers. This was a CEO who is, she wrote an article that was the most widely read article in the whole history of the Atlantic magazine. And her argument was, if you have family responsibilities, I expect you to take care of them because I know you will ultimately do better at work when your family is thriving. So it's a win-win for both sides.